So I ultimately want to see something like this get done. And I think Jared Weiss threw this around on Celtics Beat that you could still get involved on Collins if you're able to retain some assets there. So maybe that's why you dump Smart here, keep all the other assets, and try to wiggle something out on the other side. Because if you get Collins, Gordon, and keep the core here, then all of a sudden I think you feel a little better about this being a team that's closer to a championship.
That was Jared's, but that one's expensive. You go deep into the tax. So
this is going to bring you into the tax too.
And this is the question is, we talked about it. Like, I mean, the reality is, these aren't, the Celtics ownership group is not the deepest pockets in the NBA. And you just lost a year's worth of gate revenue. Are you going to be the Lakers and the Nets and Golden State and one of those franchises paying, tens of millions into the tax? You're talking 8-figure tax bill every single year. I don't know if they're prepared to do that.
Well, this is for the 2,000 people that get in 2 weeks. They have to buy as much beer as possible. Just like 15 rounds.
CLNS Media is not advocating excessive alcohol consumption. I just want that to be known. Okay.
Well, what I suggested to
load up on chicken fingers, but spend some money, buy some souvenirs that could get you into the luxury tax. Okay?
what I suggested to you guys was, what if we started a GoFundMe for Wick and the ownership group?
Right.
Every fan puts.
That's what we do in America.
Because John likes to remind us they're like one of the poorest ownership groups going, so they might need a couple of bucks to kick them into tax can gear.
They're like they could be like.
Could that happen? They could do that.
CLNS bailout fund.
Could the Celtics accept a GoFund? They couldn't accept that, could they?
Let's do it.
A fan run GoFundMe to go.
How much would it be worth to you? I'd kick in. I'd give you $10.
Yeah.
Well,
everyone gives $10.
$10 for Aaron Gordon, for John Collins next year.
What would we call it? The fan exception?
Yeah.
Player fan exception?
Yep.
We could do it.
I mean, this is what drives me crazy here.
Oh, we got to do it every year. It's a membership. You got to pay every year.
All right, Celtics fans.
It's a recurring 3 or 4 year membership.
No, this is it. I got it, guys. 10%. Everyone who got a stimulus check, you get 10% of your check goes to the Celtics.
That's an interesting coincidence.
If you got it, hang on to it, man, because I don't know anything about coming. Hang on to it.
Someday, when our video goes behind a paywall, because we get crazy subs, we'll just put a percentage of that subscription to the Celtics GoFundMe account. So we're actually contributing to their roster while we critique their roster. I know.
So that's what we got, man. It's interesting. It's interesting. It seems like this is it, but it's now we're getting close. Jimmy, it's past 45 minutes. I will give you an option to say sayonara. if guys, you want to hang for a little while longer and keep going, we got a lot of people here watching, so I don't mind continuing on. But Jimmy, I'll let you say, like I said, at any point.
We'll do 10 more minutes, and then I'll
10 more minutes. All right,
we're
gonna
do 10.
We'll take it to an hour, and we're gonna call it here. But I mean,
let's talk about tax for a second, seriously though, because
I don't know enough about it.
Well, this is gonna. All you need to know is that,
dude, tax season. Come on.
All you need to know is that adding Gordon the way we want to is gonna push you into the tax. So all of a sudden, you're paying tax in a year that you want to avoid it, and then doing what we suggested with Collins would push you deep into the tax. But that's kind of what you need to do in this league to win a championship.
Let me ask you this, Bobby: is it possible? And again, Hans, one of our regulars here, who watches every show, and thank you all of you that do.
I recognize that bird all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a great name too, username. But Collins and Bogdan,
Simpsons, right?
Huh? It's a Simpsons. It's the little wrinkly guy. Yeah. I'm 32 years old. He looks like he's 120. So
that's a great name.
Yeah, Hans Mollman. So the Collins and Bogdan is the other theoretical trade that's similar to this in terms of pieces, right? A team that isn't sure they want to re-sign a guy and they want to get rid of another contract, and this is similar-ish, even though Bogdan is not expiring like Fournier. But is that a better that also involves potentially Smart and other pieces. Is that deal better for the Celtics? Is that pair better for them? Because it seems like the framework is in the ballpark similar.
It feels like that's what they want to do first, right? And then
not sure, but I wonder
reports.
also if they think that they can, if you said your scenario, Bobby, of, hey, who knows, maybe they get competitive and sign him anyway, sign him to an offer sheet anyway, that they're holding off on Collins because they think they
what they would do effectively is trade for the $5 million now. This is the real sneaky cap way to add as much as they possibly can before they just jump into the tax and can't add anything forever. You trade for $5 million now that becomes $25 million or whatever it would be when you re-sign them. So you'd have to trade for Collins. The Celtics can't offer him an offer sheet. They have no cap space. So you'd have to do that now. And then Gordon can slide in on the TPE. So Bogdan would be out of the picture on this one. The tricky thing is, reports are saying today, and I know Jared alluded to this on Celtics Beat, is that the Hawks start asking for Brown. So then all of a sudden you're just like, all right, we're done. Like, there's just no point at that point. But if you could somehow give up everything to Atlanta, maybe all the other picks, all the other young players, and somehow get them off that, you could maybe add give up Rob would probably be the central piece of that one. You could add Collins and Gordon now and carry them into the future. And then your core is Gordon, Collins, Brown, Tatum, and that would be it at that point.
Not horrible.
Which one's better for you guys?
All your picks are gone. Bobby?
Which deal is better, the Collins one or the Gordon one?
Probably Gordon.
Guys,
I mean, for
Gordon,
Smart though,
Collins is the best player
because you don't have to max him immediately, and you've got him at a manageable salary for a couple of years.
Well, what I mean about that is if it's Smart, it's Collins. But if you're just able to do like a more prospect and picks driven deal, I do Gordon. I'm out on the Smart and Fournier thing. I don't like that.
Wow, that's it. He called it. Time of death. 12:29. Bobby's out.
Yeah, I think they're giving up way too much.
Done.
Yeah.
And the thing with Danny's gone on the radio a couple of times and basically said that like they're not interested in trading for players that are in the last year of their deal because they're not willing to.
Well, you have to think of it as Thompson for Fournier, which is like what you have to position yourself over. Even though that wouldn't be how the math would add up, it's effectively Thompson for Fournier.
No, I meant Collins for the Collins deal.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're doing that, you're re-signing him, right? That's the only reason you would do it.
Right. And I guess in that sense, they would probably assume that he would he would sign for the max. So they're not trading for a player that they think is going to get more money than that player deserves, I guess. But I don't know. I haven't heard or seen it that the Celtics are like head over heels about Collins. And I mean, honestly, in the games that I've watched him play, he's been hit or miss. I mean, I'm not like, oh, you got to do everything you can to get Collins. I'm not in this. I don't need to keep Marcus Smart either. Like, I'm completely fine with him being traded in the right deal. I don't think they should just give him away just to like shake it up. I mean, I think it would need to make sense, but by no means is he like this untouchable player or like the winning plays mentality where it's like he's worth so much to them. I do think that he is important to them, but if you're calling the season a wash, anyways, if you're pretty much chalking it up to they're not going to win the title this year, then the value of Marcus Smart goes down considerably because now you've only got 1 year left with him. You're probably not going to re-sign him. At least it's not what it sounds like based on the way the roster's constructed. So now you can start thinking about, okay, well, what can you get for him while you still can?
I like Collins, I think, in this scenario, if the two were on the table, but that's me.
Let me reframe this because the TP effectively is replacing Hayward, right? So now you're going to give up Smart to replace Hayward, and you're giving up 2 for 1, and the one's Gordon. Think of it in that sense, and
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and then you're paying 2 firsts on top of it.
That's what happens. Again, this is what we've been saying from the beginning is the TPE alone is not going to get you your Hayward replacement. You have to fold it in with another player. And so that player in this case appears to be Marcus Smart plus first-round picks. So it's basically you lost Hayward for Smart and 2 first-round picks, and to get Gordon. So I mean,
Yeah, and I
Hayward
obviously don't
Short
care
is
about the
hard-
picks, but
which is
Everyone's like, Danny did it again. He got a TPE out of the deal. We're like,
which is a crazy bad deal. It was, Gordon Hayward for Gordon Hayward and for Marcus Smart. You give up Smart, Gordon Hayward, 2 first-round picks for Aaron Gordon. That's horrible.
And let's
that's a
think-
horrible
yeah.
trade.
and let's
or
think
you
of what the
overpaid
rotation.
for Gordon Hayward. That's why we were saying, or John, that's what you were saying. I would have overpaid for him. I would have given him whatever he wanted because
That's exactly right.
the
Because it's
alternative is
better than this. Yeah, better than
And
this.
Zach will do that in his thing again today. He loves talking about that. That if the Celtics wanted Turner, it was done. Like they just had to pull the trigger. And I believe low. Like there's a lot of ardent Celtics people out there who are like, he was going to Charlotte no matter what.
No, give me a break. All of that stuff bothers me.
That's
'cause it's
Hayward trying to give goodwill to the
It's
Hornets
not
fans.
true. It's not
Yeah.
true. There's no way Charlotte was his dream destination. I think
he wanted to go to Indy.
he was thrilled to go to Indy, and I also don't know that the money was real here in Boston. And I do think if right from the gate you say 4 and 30 done, he doesn't even talk to anybody else, and they don't extend it, and they just sign the deal. So I believe if they wanted him, they could have signed him at that money, and I believe if they wanted to trade him,
I don't
they
know
could have
about
traded
that one. I believe in the role stuff being an
I
issue for him.
think you can say that afterwards because it makes sense. It's one of those. It's like Rob's hip. It's true, but it wasn't the reason. Okay,
Yeah.
it's true, but
Yeah.
it's not the reason. That's my opinion there.
And if I'm pressed, I'll bring it up.
Right, and it'll make sense because the narrative fits that I can go here and what this helps explain it better because it's going to tell it's also a little dig at the Celtics on the way out. Oh, I could be myself here. He would have been happy to be whatever version of his cheese shop going self he was here for $30 million if the Celtics gave it to him. No question about it. I refuse to accept that, and I refuse to accept that Indiana trade wasn't there. So I think that this is I don't know how much more. This was a massive botch by Danny beginning, and Jimmy just laid it out perfectly. The price you're paying for that disaster is having to give all of this stuff to play catch up. They've been playing catch up since Kyrie walked with Kemba, selling out players, giving away picks to get rid of players, to get under the cap, to be able to do these things. I mean,
That's a good point.
Look at everything they've hemorrhaged just to make up for guys leaving. It's a disaster.
Wick pretty much said that too.
I think one of the most overlooked.
Kyrie messed the whole thing up because they're just dumping players and picks and players and picks.
Think even the most minor one. They picked Grant Williams over some other guys just to creep back a few spots to sign Kemba. And who knows what they could have gotten in that draft. But that draft obviously ended up being a disaster because of that. I think Thibault was the guy they gave up, right? Probably rather have Thibault than Grant.
I think that when they re-signed Jalen, people don't understand how crucial that was because Jalen could essentially just been like, you know what? I'm just going to showcase myself and see what's out there. I don't know what you guys have in store for me. Okay, yeah, Kyrie's not here anymore. I like that. But, I don't know if you're going to put me on the same level as Tatum or if you even see me, envision me to make that ascension. And they obviously bought into him, and it obviously paid off because I think Jalen could have made a whole lot more money elsewhere. And of course, they got him on was going to easily be a bargain in a couple of years.
Yeah. So
there's a story. This is a topic for another day, but it's great that they did that. That was completely necessary. But they still need to figure out if Tatum and Brown are a tandem of the future because I haven't seen enough to say that they are.
That's why I've been pushing so hard for a deal too, because I think they've got such undue. Look at Jalen tonight. He had to take like 8 spot-up threes around screens. Is that Jalen's game? Not really, but out of necessity, this is where the rosters put those guys. Tatum has to be a 35-minute a game facilitator, which you obviously eventually want him to be, but he's 22. He's only been doing that for a year. So all the questions that this season has generated about are Brown and Tatum the guys is so frustrating to me because I think it's a product of the team that's been around them. I just think the reason I'm against this deal, if you think about the missing fifth piece in all these lineups throughout the year, ultimately you would be looking at Kemba, Brown, Tatum, one of the centers like Tice or Rob, and then it's who's the fifth guy? Is it Gordon? Does he step up and expand his game in this position? Then you look at Fournier, and then you look after Fournier, and it's looking real shaky again. So effectively, you move from having 6 guys to 7 guys maybe if Fournier's playing well. And I think you're just trading out too much in that spot to add unknowns, to take a risk. And I think they could hold out here and give up less. I know I've criticized for Boston doing that in the past, but I understand it this time.
But that's, again, I don't mean to make fun of you, Bobby, but that's the whole thing is when it gets down to it, the actual trade is going to be one that's difficult to make. So I know it's easy to say early, Danny, do something.
Well, here we are.
This is the something. And it's like, oh, really? All that, huh? You know, ugh, I don't like it.
Well, let's put it on the table. As it stands, are you guys doing it?
My brain hasn't. You guys go. I'm struggling with it.
Joe Sway's a no.
What's the trade?
Thompson, Smart, and 2 firsts for Fournier and Gordon.
It's not an awful deal, but no, I wouldn't do it.
Probably not. That's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot for Gordon. Again,
I think I'm a no too.
The two firsts on top of it are a lot.
Well, here's the thing about the first. They might have full lottery protections.
They will.
Yeah, but they're not going to be in the lottery. I mean, that would be stunning.
But you're giving up 15 to 30.
I wonder if Orlando builds in protections where if they're like below 20 something, they roll over too, you know? Because do you want to take, again, this year is probably the best.
The battle of the protections. That would be a fun season.
This is the best pick you're going to get out of the Celtics, which is probably, if they make the playoffs and go out early, a 16, 17 pick, you know?
You know what? Here's what I'll say, actually.
Realistically, you think that pick's in the 20s, you know?
You know what? Like, the more I think about it, the more I would be okay with it. I'm almost saying no because I'm thinking, well, who's gonna be the distributor, or who's gonna be the playmaker? It's like, well, if they can find another player for that role, yeah, Kemba, or just another player to fill those minutes that has similar abilities. Again, I'm not married to Marcus Smart. I would seriously consider that trade, especially if you're thinking that Ainge is going to target Gordon as a player that he wants to sign after, because like you said, they would need to acquire him via trade in order for that to happen, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and if I would find it hard to believe they're gonna play it back with Marcus Smart once his contract's up. I just find it hard to believe. I don't.
Yeah.
And this deal would leave a 10 million TP for the offseason for what it's worth. There'd still be some left over.
Yeah.
It's funny as I go round and around, I'm leaning towards doing it. But I'm not sure I love it, but
I don't. But what are you gonna do?